going back to about this time last year, but I think it began before that. Obviously, there were some financial difficulties facing the school, facing the college, and the board began to look for groups that could help sustain the college, help bring it forward. And at some point, negotiations began with the Legionnaires of Christ. And the back and forth of those negotiations, and I won't get into all the details, eventually brought it to what's called a Memorandum of Understanding in April of last year. And then, for whatever reason, things got delayed until July. And so the Legion never really gave a full decision until July, looking at things, assessing things, because there was a financial risk, obviously. And things were tough. And by the time the Legion said yes, and then I ended up here on your doorstep a couple of weeks later, a little baby needing a lot of food. Once I began, I remember I sat down and went through the financials, and I'm a theology student. So when I looked at the financials, even I could figure out that things were not good. And already at the beginning, it was clear that it was going to be a tough year at best. So we had our first board meeting, we looked at things to find out what we could do. And one of the things I did when I came in was, people said I should cut things. The problem was, I didn't know who to cut, because I had to know who should stay and who shouldn't stay. And I can't make that just because other people are telling me who should stay and who can't stay. So one of the things I needed to do was get to know people. And unfortunately that takes time. But one of the clear things is, even with the cuts weren't going to be enough. We actually needed a lot of money. And one of our estimations was we needed probably $20 to $23 million for the next couple of years. So that's more money than I used to put in the box when it would go by in church. But it's a huge endeavor. So after that, I did decide to go to Rome to ask the Legion, who the Legion was clear was not going to put money into it. They said they would give a president and a chaplain and help with the fundraising, but that they themselves couldn't put money into it. But I went to Rome to see if I could change their mind. And for a while I thought I had changed it. But again, as anybody who's been reading the papers, you see that the Legion is going through its share of some serious difficulties, which does not allow for money to even be moving. It's frozen. So when I went there, it became clear that nothing was coming from there. And so we came back, and the big decision was, do we even start this semester? And I felt like I had two decisions. Either I get to shoot you in the face or in the back of the head, but it's how do I get to kill you? And that's a tough decision. Because starting the semester, I knew that if certain things didn't come, and not just me, the board, and several involved, we knew that if we knew we'd make it to March, if a couple things didn't happen, we had a choice to make. We leave the senior class short, and so they've probably got to repeat their whole senior year. It would have given the faculty time to look for things, but that was the catch-22. Who do I shoot? But we opted, not necessarily unanimously, there was a lot of debate in the board as to should we go forward or should we not, but stopping in January meant it would have been no chance. Beginning the semester meant we still had a couple opportunities, and we approached people asking for $16 and $20 million because we really needed money that could not just keep us alive. All of you know what this year has been like. We don't have money for anything. And so everything's been tight. By the way, I've been unbelievably edified by the creativity I've seen in the students, in the administration, in the faculty. The level of generosity, honestly, I've been deeply edified because we haven't had anything. And I'm going to have to tell you that you've experienced it. And there haven't been the frills and thrills and the things that perhaps a bigger college has. And yet, 9 out of 10 times, I've seen a great response of generosity and love. And I've been edified by that. So thank you. So we approached a couple people, and one of them, the first one, looked very promising. In fact, it drug out for 3 weeks. And it buoyed our hopes for quite a while, at least for those 3 weeks, and then it dropped. And that brought us to about the end of February, beginning of March, at which point now things are really looking tough. We had one more option, and that's where Father Higgins stepped in and made a proposal. And the difficulty as well was that if we said immediately, if we don't get this, we're closing, you see what happened. Food services stopped immediately. We figured that would happen. They have to. And so if we announced it as early as February, the chances are we're not going to make it. Food would have stopped in February. And that was the risk. Really hoping that those gifts would come in. And that was, but once it was clear in this last one that it didn't come in, then the school was really down to nickels and dimes, if you want to put it like that. It really has nothing. And the unfortunate thing was I really wanted to be able to announce this to everybody in person. Although that would have been a cathartic moment, to say the least, for all of us. So in some sense, maybe it was a blessing that it actually came from an email. Okay? But I do apologize that it had to be an email, because that certainly was not my desire. And certainly it wasn't the board's desire, the faculty or the staff or anybody, to have to even come to this moment. Okay? Because this school is a beautiful gift. And the things that have happened here have been extraordinary. And the ways that God's worked has been extraordinary. Never forget that. And I'm going to tell you a story that I hoped I would never have to tell you, but I'm going to tell it. When I was 16 years old,